All right, you guys, happy Thursday, but also don't be too happy because Blake Lively's PR team has introduced a new term to the lexicon. It's called toxic positivity. They're using that now in the press to describe the real life horror of what it's like to work for Justin Baldoni. I'm not kidding. He's apparently toxically positive. So lock him up, throw away the key. We're going to talk about that. Also, the media is catching up to our podcast, apparently. We told you guys over a week ago that Taylor Swift was definitely getting subpoenaed. Everybody ignored that. And now all of a sudden they're reporting this as breaking news, as exclusive news. Okay, whatever. Plus, in case you missed it, I was able to join Theo Vaughn and Stephen A. Smith on their respective shows. And you know what? It's really great. I'm telling you, it feels like everyone is moving a bit more to the center, and it's a good thing for our country. But some people are having a different experience with these sorts of conversations. Some people believe it is, quote unquote, Satan that is on the march. We're going to discuss that coming from the Babylon Bee managing editor. All right, guys, let's jump right into it. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, before we get started, I have to vent. I got to vent about my 2-year-old daughter. Bless her heart, you guys. She is 2 and she has got an imagination, and that imagination is running. And sometimes it is running when me and her father are not there. Sometimes she slides up next to me and really sad, convincing face, and she'll say, you know, Mommy, the boys at school are not being very nice to me. And then I have to tell her that she doesn't go to school yet and she's home full time. And she has told us all sorts of things about her brother. She'll say her brother's sick, because her brother's completely fine. But yesterday, she took it a little bit further, okay? She went to ballet class and told the other 2-year-olds that her daddy was in prison. Okay, guys? I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with how funny it is and to be able to try to tell her why she shouldn't say that. And I don't know where she's getting this stuff from. I presume from her older brother, who has an obsession with police officers in jail and prison. Anyways, you guys, I'm just looking for help here as a mom. Help me deal with this. And speaking of toddlers, Blake Lively's PR team has thought up their next attack on Justin Baldoni, and it's brilliant. It's exceptional. They are clearly spending top dollar, as we have learned, using their former CIA agents, that they've hired them, to convince the public that the real problem in this lawsuit with Justin Baldoni is actually the fact that he's too positive. I gotta tell you, after learning this, reading the articles, reading the deep dive, I am in fact prepared to switch teams. And so I want to show you it. Maybe you're going to feel the exact same way. Check out this headline in the New York Post. This is a real headline. Justin Baldoni accused of toxic positivity by former employees amid Blake Lively lawsuit. And here's a direct quote. It felt phony. Ooh. Oh, yeah. And that article is actually quoting from another article which was featured in the LA Times. They're the ones that did the real work, the CIA work, you know, to get to the bottom of this very apparent flaw in Justin Baldoni's character. And I got to agree, because, like, you know, when I watch his videos, I'm like, my cousin is way too positive. You know, it's toxic. And I never thought that this could be a term that could be used to dissuade the public against somebody. And here's a quotation from that article. It reads, but to some observers, his public gestures, such as filming himself giving clothing to a homeless man or asking employees to sign their emails with the phrase, so much love, it felt performative, aimed at self-branding as much as bringing about genuine change. One employee says, off record, quote, it was constant positivity all the time. I would say toxic positivity, end quote, said one former Wayfarer staffer. They continue, quote, I'm always a little bit dubious of people who advertise themselves as disruptors of the status quo or, quote unquote, good people. It felt phony. Now, obviously, because this journalist is working on this huge explosive piece about somebody being happy or putting on a happy face at work, they went out to Wayfair with these claims. And you can imagine this phone call. You come up like, hi, I'm a journalist from the LA Times, and we have some employees that are starting to speak about you off record, and they're telling us stuff about how you act at work. And we are hearing that your happiness feels phony. So what do you have to say to that? Here's what Wayfarer said. They said, quote, "There have never been any reported complaints regarding the workplace culture or any communicated issues regarding the platforms or its founders. If any guidance was ever provided to employees of how to conduct their written correspondence, it was to ensure that the activities of its employees remained professional and aligned with the ethos of the company. Wayfarer believes that joy and positivity are the essence of good work, and they stand by this statement," end quote. I don't know, guys. It's a hit piece of sorts, right? Like, imagine a world where you can report someone for being too nice. I don't know how the HR department is going to deal with these sorts of complaints. I don't know. I got out of my job of 2 years and I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from anxiety because I just think about how nice those employers were. They were so nice all the time, and it felt phony. Yeah, I want to be honest. I think 99% of people are phony at work. That's the whole point. Like, you're even phony when you pick up the phone and it's your boss. You're like, hello? Like, and then if it's your sister, you're like, hey, what's up? You know, that's the point. Like, you're not supposed to bring in your every emotion through the door at work. Actually, they're paying you to be phony. I got to tell you something. Like, I'm paying you to not bring in the trauma of your life. Everybody has got trauma. We don't need you bringing it into the room. What is he supposed to do? Be like, I just got into an argument with a friend of mine and now I'm angry, and then they would have felt what, more grainy? No, they would have complained the other way too. They would have complained. And so we've now moved within this lawsuit, which just shows you how frustrating this must be for the ex-CIA team to be like, find me anything on him. Speak to former employees, and one employee is finally like, you know what? That man was so nice it hurt. Justin Baldoni is so nice it freaking hurts. Yeah, there he is. Look at that monster of niceness. And I think that is the problem with trying to problematize Justin Baldoni. You just kind of come up looking pretty stupid. By the way, in case you're wondering, I'm all about making sure that we are learning on this podcast. And I was like, what is exactly toxic positivity? Like, definitionally speaking, what the heck is this? And I took to Google so that you didn't have to. Here is the definition straight from Google. It says toxic positivity is the practice of forcing an optimistic attitude even when you're experiencing negative emotions. Yeah, so I do this with my toddlers. I do this with my husband. I would call this compartmentalizing. So if one thing upsets you, you don't take it out on somebody else. And apparently it's problematic. And so if there's someone in your life who's just been acting nice and you know that things are not amazing in their life, or that they maybe got off a harsh call, but they have a smile on their face, you too might be able to file a lawsuit. I just want one of those old school commercials. You know, have you recently been in a car accident? Have you recently had an employee that buttons it up and is always nice every single day to you? You might be due some cash. Call Candace, 1-800-CANDACE. All right. Anyways, enough about that. Back into the courtroom. We left you guys off with their respective legal teams warring over the protective order. Now, we covered this extensively, but what it is coming down to is whether or not the judge is willing to limit the case to a standard protective order for all the text messages and emails that are received during the course of subpoenas, which both sides have already agreed to, a standard protective order, or whether he will be issuing a rather extraordinary AEO, which stands for Attorney's Eyes Only Protection Order, which in many ways means that Judge Lehman would be removing himself as the judge of what the public should have access to, right? It would allow the respective attorneys to remove that power from the judge because they could just mark whatever they want AEO. Like, this is what is allowed to be seen by only the attorneys. And you can't even show Justin Baldoni. You can't show Blake Lively. And we can just mark whatever document we want to AEO. And I have been, I think, rather accurately referring to this as the Taylor Swift protective clause, right? Well, Judge Lehman, while he hasn't made a final decision just yet in this matter, has come out and accurately assessed exactly what this case is. He's calling it a war between PR firms. There's no substance here, in my view. There's no assault here, in my view. This is a nasty game of public relations, which began, in my view, when Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively worked with the New York Times to pretend that they were being victimized by the fact that Justin Baldoni did not want to hand over his movie, okay? So this morning, the legal teams met virtually in a hearing, and that hearing was open to the public. It was not allowed to be recorded by the public, so we don't have an audio for you to listen to, but we can just recap what went down. Blake's team argued Quote, there are 100 million reasons. Oh, that's not hyperbole at all. There are 100 million reasons for these parties to leak information because the PR value is greater than complying with the court orders. End quote. Okay, so they are basically saying if they're able to access all of this, they might leak it to the public, and you can't trust them to just abide by the standard protective order. Her team also argued that there is, quote, a significant chance of irreparable harm if marginal conversations with high-profile individuals with no relevance to the case were to fall into the wrong hands, okay? We're talking, obviously, we're clearly talking about Taylor Swift. We're talking about celebrities, right? And that is stunning to me. That is just absolutely stunning to me that they are making an argument while also trying to pretend they have no power. They are arguing for power, right? Like, we just should be exceptional here because we are dealing with not regular people, but really rich and famous people, Your Honor. And so Brian Friedman is coming back, and he sounds like the layman in this case. He says, quote, what the other side is asking for is because there is celebrity, because there is powerful people in the industry, somehow there is a different law that applies to them. And I agree with that assessment. Like, I have so agreed with every argument that Brian Friedman has brought forth. What do you mean? Would you do this if this was just some regular layman lawsuit, Your Honor? Because they're basically saying, well, if the public actually learns who we are, it could hurt our careers. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. And remind you, this is not some like they're subpoenaing messages for 3 years. It's everything that's relevant to this case that can fall within the scope of this case. And Judge Lehman has looked at both of these sides. And by the way, in the background, you still have Leslie Sloan PR begging to be, that's Blake Lively's PR firm, begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all because they're just like, please, Your Honor, we are women. We are women. Why are we here, Your Honor? I'm a girl. Please, we're ladies. This is not what ladies do. We don't do laws. I don't even know what they're doing. They're just so deranged. They're like I said, I have to assume everyone in this law firm is just extremely old, and they're just running this weird feminist playbook that's just like, we genuinely don't care about your sex. We want to get to the truth of this lawsuit. And so Judge Lehman came back with all of these arguments going back and forth, and he said this. He said, quote, much of this information will become public as the case goes forward. For example, in motions for summary judgment and, of course, at trial. He said all of this near the end of the hearing. And then he said, quote, there is a public interest in how the courts are being used that the court has to respect. And that's interesting, is what he's basically saying is, this is already a very public lawsuit, and you can pay attention to what's happening. Obviously, he's seeing podcasters, TikTokers, the press that's following this, and he's recognizing how I behave has larger ramifications. People will think the court is corrupt if I, honor certain things that I wouldn't normally honor. And him just acknowledging that, I think, is quite honorable. Like saying, we just can't be corrupt. We're a court, and we have to do things and make sure that the court is actually respected. And in recent years, I would say the courts have lost a lot of respect for reasons that they've handled cases, which people have deemed to be exceptional. And so I think him expressing that is important. Anyways, the press in this matter, and I do want to say this, I am dying to know what is in these messages with Taylor Swift. Like, it's just crazy to me, the length that they are going through to protect these messages. Like, it is indicating that there is something way darker in my view. And again, I did this whole thread over the weekend where I was basically just opening up to you guys, or just like not even opening up, but like revealing to you guys a lot of the stuff in Hollywood. It's just not what it seems. And I know this, unfortunately, fortunately, I've been friends with a lot of people, a lot of power players in Hollywood. Like, for example, it is 1000% true that there are fake relationships and there are trade-ups. I spoke about this on my Instagram, which is to say there are people who date other people because they want to hide the fact that they're gay. That 1000% happens. These beard relationships that are set up by agencies. And it's not because they don't think Hollywood is LGBTQ friendly. If you're a part of my book club, we're going to get to the next book that we read is Hollywood Babylon, which is about the founding of Hollywood. It was always extraordinarily gay, lesbian, lavender couples, gay men marrying lesbian women so that they could hide that they were gay or that they were lesbians as they began to impact culture. It's a fascinating book that's written by Kenneth Anger. We'll get there. But the reasons why they hide those relationships today is not because they're fearful of coming out of the closet. This is not the 1970s, but it's because they're fearful of how it will impact their career, which is to say that if you're a playing a manly man, right, in some capacity, they need to convince you that that portrayal is real, right? And if you knew that actually, wait a second, this guy's actually quite camp and he's married to another man, that role wouldn't sell for you. Like when you're in a theater, you want to be convinced by the character. Like, for example, I don't know, Bradley Cooper was like the most convincing alcoholic ever when I saw him in that movie with Lady Gaga, which is A Star is Born. And if you know too much about somebody's personal life, or if it changes things, like if I knew like Bradley Cooper was actually, married to a man and actually quite camp, maybe I would be like, I don't really know if I buy this role of him and Lady Gaga together. So that's kind of the reason why they put together these lavender relationships, or there's a trade up. So you have someone like, Ari Emanuel at WME. He's got a client that's new on his roster that needs a public relationship to kind of lift him up, and which will allow him to get many more sponsorships. So that's just like an asset that he's trying to build, so that he can sell it at a higher price, which is just business. And then he's got someone who's got superstar power like Taylor Swift, who is maybe willing to do that relationship because I don't know, there's like another album coming out, and people want to listen to it more. So it's those sorts of trades that are made. And I was bringing it up on my Instagram over the weekend because like a lot of you guys were emailing me about Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's a well-known thing, like what was the falling out between Ryan and Jake? And it's a well-known thing in Hollywood that it was like a relationship ended between the two of them. There was nothing else beyond that. There's a lot of bi people in Hollywood. I don't know what his true sexuality is, but it's interesting because I'm wondering if in this severity of this rush to protect Taylor Swift's messages and Blake Lively's messages, there could be something about relationship dynamics that they're fearful of the public finding out, which would actually deliver a very significant blow. Don't forget, allegedly, she's supposed to be with Joe Alwyn. That relationship ends. She's with Blake Lively. Maybe we're going to find something out about the nature of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' relationship, or Blake Lively and Taylor Swift's relationship. What is the real nature of Taylor Swift? Nobody really knows because she is a brand. She used to date Jake Gyllenhaal. And what is this? No one really knows what the nature is. What if you found out that everything between her and Travis Kelce was fake? How would that edit the way that you believe or the way that you deal with Taylor Swift? Like if you found out and she's just like in a message like, hey, WME is I'm going to make me date this guy Taylor Swift, this guy Travis Kelce. Like, do you want to go to these games or whatever? Actually, he's dating another guy. But I'm just saying this is like a scenario that could run. How would the public react to that? That is what I think is actually at risk here. There's something big, very, very big in this message, which is why they're asking for this extraordinary protection. Anyways, the press has been essentially behind us on all of these developments. They're acting like the girl from Mean Girls. You remember Karen Smith? Here she is.
Hi, this is Karen Smith. It's 68 degrees, and there's a 30% chance that it's already raining.
Yeah. That's what it feels like if you listen to my podcast and then you read the press, because we've been covering this stuff. We've given you guys all of the players. We've been telling you guys exactly what it is that's going on. And then the press is like, oh my gosh, exclusive 1 week later, Taylor Swift is being subpoenaed. That's what Daily Mail is reporting. Look at this. They're actually putting exclusive, sensational new twist as Taylor Swift will be subpoenaed in Blake Lively, Justin Baldy legal battle, and faces being questioned under oath, an insider reveals. Yeah, that's a podcast 10 days ago. Am I the insider? I don't know. And yes, they are acknowledging that she is going to be questioned under oath as a part of the saga, and that a source close to the situation confirms a group of potential witnesses, which include depositions that are coming to give evidence, and the potential witnesses are understood to be Taylor Swift, and It Ends With Us co-stars Jenny Slate and Isabella Ferrer. So, and the staff at the talent agency WME, which represents Lively and executives at Sony. Exclusive. Again, if you watch this podcast, you will have those exclusive reportings a lot earlier. Anyways, to wrap this up, I want to tell you what my prediction is. My prediction is that if Judge Lehman comes back and says no to the request for attorneys' eyes only, then this is going to move the case to settlement. Currently, there have been no settlement talks because both sides are saying that it's premature. And technically, it is premature because if you have a judge that's willing to let you just write AEO on everything, why not go to trial? There's no risk. And at least you might be able to save face and say, oh, I always thought I was going to win. I'm shocked by this decision. Who knows what their game plan is? It's going to hurt them either way. But I think if the judge come back and says no to AEO, then they are going to settle. And that is going to be the end of the lawsuit. That it will end with a settlement and statements from both parties. But we shall see, mon ami. All right, don't go away because we have Theo Von coming up. I had a hard-hitting, heavy interview with Theo Von, and I know many of you have watched it. I'm going to show you some of my favorite parts. First, I want to remind you guys about Preborn. You guys know how much I love this organization because I know that Planned Parenthood is spending millions to target vulnerable women, convincing them that the abortion pill is some quick, easy solution. I have been with these young ladies who have gotten abortions or have used the pill, and there is devastation that follows. I mean, I've been in college before. There's pain, there's regret, there's a reality that you're ending a life. And that's why Preborn is stepping in. Through innovative technology, they are reaching abortion-determined women before they take that pill, before it's too late. And in fact, to date, Preborn's network of clinics have rescued over 300,000 lives, and they have seen over 90,000 women come to Christ, which is amazing. And it doesn't stop there. Preborn's network of clinics are with these moms every step of the way thereafter, offering counseling, maternity supplies, and the support that they need to choose life. But they cannot do it without us. Just $28 provides an ultrasound to a woman that is in crisis. That is literally it. $28 to help her see her baby and choose life instead. So if you would like to donate, you can just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby, or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. And speaking of health, the Wellness Company, if you have been experiencing fatigue, bloating, or brain frog rather than fog, your health issues could be caused by an invisible enemy because there could be parasites. Parasites could be the real culprit to all of those things. So if you have never done some digging into parasite cleanses, you definitely should. There is ivermectin and benzodol, and those are two powerful anti-pathogens. But what's even more fascinating, these medications are frequently used in oncology to treat cancer patients. They have anti-pathogenic properties that stunt the growth of harmful invaders and even have the potential to slow down abnormal cell growth. Did you know that 60 million Americans have parasites? They secretly invade your body. They wreak havoc on your gut, energy levels, and even your brain. And the mainstream medical system doesn't want you to think about this because one great cleanse can really change your life. Well, the Wellness Company has a solution for you. Like I said, it is ivermectin plus bendazole, an FDA-approved parasite solution, now combined in one cleanse. Just fill out a brief medical intake form to get your 3-month free supply. The Wellness Company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. So head to twc.health/Candace and use code Candace to save $90 off plus free shipping. Cleanse your body today at twc.health/Candace and use code Candace. All right, you guys. So I was actually on a call with a journalist this morning. You know, I do a bunch of, I guess you could say, press and people that are interested in various topics. And I think it went actually well. It was a Wall Street Journal journalist, and it felt like a very normal interview. I'm scared to say that. Anyways, she was just interested in kind of the shift into the podcast world and was just sort of asking my opinion about what's contributing to the rise of podcasting. And we spoke a lot about how now we're seeing people that are coming more towards the center. I think that's been the major change. And I also think obviously this fracturing of trust in the mainstream media has been helpful, and people are able to get direct to the source rather than hear somebody tell them about what that person is saying. And there's no greater example of this than me joining Theo Von. He is absolutely hilarious. I think I've only shown you one of his clips in the past, but I sat down for a long form interview with him, and I just have to show you this montage of my favorite moments with him as we discussed my husband being British. We discussed the Mandela effect. If you guys are not familiar with that, that's essentially we all have the same memory of something, but they're telling us it wasn't a thing, like Fruit of the Loom. Apparently there was no cornucopia. And I'm telling you there was one 100%. And now there wasn't on Fruit of the Loom, but there was one. Anyways, Theo Von and I discussing all of these topics. Take a listen.
It would be great if your AC or whatever had like a Caribbean setting or whatever. Yeah. And you could have set that and suddenly like some great music came out.
It'd
like,
be perfect. Yeah.
And then some guy's trying to get you to gamble offshore or something. You're like, what temperature is this? I think all British people are always just writing war letters and stuff. That's how I kind of always envision them. They're always just looking out the window and writing about the war to each other.
That's what my husband does all day.
Of course, yeah. And then even Paddington Bear, their bear has a coat. He's not even, like, our bears are naked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that that's the way to do it, but if you bring up an American teddy bear real quick. Let me see this topless bastard.
Paddington Bear is proper.
Yeah, now some of these are obviously some pretty right-wing bears. Bring up a politically neutral teddy bear. A fascinator is a hat?
It's called like the ones you wear to the wedding. Those are called fascinators, not hats, and there is a difference.
Bring it up. A fascinator.
Yeah. And he's not, I want to see him spell it too, because that's even.
He sounds like a gay superhero, kind of. That's how I feel. Oh, and it's just a dude that shows up and it's like, he doesn't have any specific powers like any of the other superheroes. He's just like more like exciting. He's like, oh, there's Fascinator Randy or whatever.
Pikachu.
Okay.
Describe his tail.
Pikachu short, let me think of him.
Yeah.
Oh, God, he's nasty. He had short little tail. That lady scoffed at me when I fell out of that chair at the inauguration. She's like, oh. Like I was a fart that had come out of her. Oh, look at this gross. This thing from steerage that climbed up here somehow. This thing that would never get in a lifeboat on the Titanic. You know, that kind of.
He's just hilarious. He really is hilarious. I was laughing the majority of the interview. By the way, I love that the live chat, people are just fighting over Fruit of the Loom. That is correct. Everyone who's saying there definitely was one. Yes, we are so correct. We will go to war over this issue. My theory is we're just living in a matrix and they're just deleting files. I described it as like there's probably some intern who accidentally hit the wrong button and we're just all computer program, and then they just deleted accidentally the cornucopia. You're like, oh no, now the millennials are going to have a different memory of this than Gen Z. And Gen Z's like, there was never, and we're like, no, there definitely was on Fruit of the Loom. A little, come on, but let's be real. And also, what is Theo Von's beef with Pikachu? Why did he call Pikachu nasty? No one ever in the history of the world has ever called Pikachu nasty. And I think that we need kind of a further exploration of what happened between him and Pikachu, if it was just an incident when he was collecting cards, whatever. Fantastic conversation. It's really fun. But we also talked about some areas where we agree on, and obviously we have different politics. And one of the great things about being able to host your own podcast is people get to come directly to you. And so these sort of caricatures that they build of us on the left or on the right, they just kind of fail the test when people can get direct to the information. And one of the things they always made it seem was that I agree with Trump on everything. And I don't agree with Trump on everything. And if you actually listen to my podcast, I disagree with Republicans on things all the time. I just am a conservative, and most of my values align with the Republican ticket, obviously. And as a Christian, most of my values align with the Republican ticket. And so we were able to agree on something that we both disagreed with, that Trump did regarding Gaza, or has said recently regarding Gaza. So here is that portion of the conversation. To me, to speak about Gaza and talking about casinos and hotels, and these people just lost their entire families. Yeah. It's so far removed from humanity. And I think it's wrong, and I'm tired of America being used as Israel's piggyback. You know, for whatever reason, everyone can critique every other country for taking money from us, and then there's just everyone's blind when it comes to Israel. And obviously, I paid a very heavy price for saying that last year, but I don't care, because I am truly someone whose values have never been up for sale. Like, I don't care. I will burn everything to the ground and rebuild it. I have to be able to like sleep at night, and to see those Palestinian children, and the images are seared into my brain. The screaming, the crying, the bleeding, the stuff that we saw on X for the first time, largely thanks to Elon freeing the bird, and really realizing how much we had been lied to about what was happening in that region. I just, it was very easy for me to say, take whatever you have to take from me. I have to be on like the human side of things.
I think it's become both sides of the aisle now just see that, human people just feel like this is that it's just wrong.
Of course.
What's happened is wrong. Like probably a year ago, people were afraid to even say that. And now it is what everybody is saying. Like even Piers Morgan is saying it on his show now. Like people are saying it's obvious that you can't go and annihilate and genocide this culture and make them disappear. And then Trump to come on top of it and say they're going to build, you're going to go on a lazy river where there's bodies of, like, who could even go to that?
And that's kind of these moments where we get to come together and remember that we're all human beings, and we're, even if the mainstream media is attacking us all and calling us names, we can still have this conversation about what we know to be wrong. And like essentially what we're saying is that our morality is not going to be trumped by propaganda. And so it was a great conversation. I hope you guys enjoy that. And you can go obviously find that on his YouTube channel or on his Spotify, 3 hours. And he is hilarious and great. On that same note, though, of this sort of these propagandists that are trying to convince us that our humanity is wrong, or by speaking and understanding things outside of the context of what's in our textbooks or what's happening on social media, what's happening on the mainstream media is wrong. I'm going to show you this tweet. And without giving you the context, if I didn't tell you what it was about, what would you think it was about? This is Joel Berry. He is the managing editor of the Babylon Bee. I very early on this year told you the Babylon Bee, it's just completely fraudulent. These people behind the scenes are awful. And Joel Berry, though, has been having a meltdown for a very long. He's just calling everybody names. But this tweet literally made me giggle. I now think the Babylon Bee is funny. So here it is. There's an evil movement on the march. Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Pray for God to thwart the plans of the wicked and protect people from this deception. And you're like, what is he talking about? It must be really bad. Like, there must have been tons of people who died. Here's the full tweet, you guys. I will show you. He was talking about Ian Carroll going on Joe Rogan. He's talking about speech. Ian Carroll, if you guys don't know him, he's been on TikTok for like 2 years. He used to just go through the grocery aisle is how he started and speak about the companies that own all of the food and what's in the ingredients. And he built up a solid following for these like sort of fun, investigative TikTok pieces. And he kind of hit my radar last year. And then he kind of hit it big when he had this back forth with Elon Musk. I would say that's when he kind of jumped over into a million followers a few months ago. And then Joe Rogan invited him to come onto his platform. And it was such a fun discussion. They were speaking about things that are real. Okay. MK Ultra, if you're reading the Chaos book and you guys are part of the book club, you know that's a real declassified government program. The majority of the files have been destroyed. And just the files that we can see are terrifying about the experiments and the brainwashing that was done on people. They also spoke about Epstein, why the files are not being released, what we can deduce from what we do already know about Epstein via his network of contacts. And he is trying to say that this is Satan on the march, like information being given to the people is Satan on the march. And so here I will just show you a clip. It's a very long episode. It's 3 hours. You should go watch it in its entirety and let me know if you feel that Satan was marching or if you were just listening to a very interesting conversation of independent media people discussing government files. Take a listen.
I think that when you study the MK Ultra files, and this is where there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are hard to prove, there's a bunch of witness victim testimony, but it's hard to prove, is the Monarch programs are an alleged program that never got disclosed, and that's all the programs that are hidden behind child sexual abuse being a part of mind control, because a lot of the drugs, like, they can break people's minds and they can be involved in mind control, but a lot of those papers talk about dissociative identity disorder as like the holy grail of that Manchurian candidate concept. And it makes a lot of sense if you know how dissociative identity disorder works.
Right.
And that is most commonly associated with dark, grim childhood sexual abuse. And then you get all these victim testimonies, hundreds and hundreds of people these days talking about how they were a part of these programs, like people that were on Epstein's Island that claim to have been victimized as children and subjected to mind control experiments paired with childhood sexual abuse.
It's just so hard to believe that people are that evil, but they have been throughout history. This is why it's weird. It's like we'll look back on the Victorian era, or we'll look back on the man-boy love of the Socrates era. We'll go, that's just back then.
We've evolved now.
We
We're
don't
more
do
cultured.
that anymore. Yeah.
But
when they've identified specific aspects of traumatic past that they can use these particular victims of trauma, of childhood trauma, and take them and turn them into weapons.
Yep.
That's so wild.
Yeah,
but that is an asset, right? If you got someone who's so crazy, you could talk to them and get them to do things and give them acid and get them to Sirhan levels or whatever the they did to Jack Ruby.
So this is Satan on the march, us learning about the things that our governments have been up to. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to tell you guys, listening to that, obviously, for those of you that got very invested in the Becoming Brigitte series, everything he is describing in terms of childhood abuse and the idea that you could turn somebody into a weapon. These are all the concepts that came up in our Becoming Brigitte series as we went through just the media completely lying to you about everything as it pertains to Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron. And on the back of this is insane. I learned that Emmanuel Macron has hired a crisis PR firm in the United States. And this crisis PR firm has connections at TikTok. In one day, all 4 of the Becoming Brigitte clips that we cut on TikTok were hit with strikes, and my account is now facing a ban. Okay, this all happened last week. It's been insane. And we are dealing with this. And I think the best answer to this would be for people to go watch the series, to watch every series that we do. But it is difficult for me to put into words how utterly deranged and psychopathic it is that this man is trying to move through the United States court systems to shut down speech, and has now hired a crisis PR firm to try to deal with TikTokers to be banned for discussing the truth about the person that he married. Okay. He was never going to bring this court case into the public, into Tennessee. I have dared him many times to do this because I told no lies. Okay. I told no lies throughout that series. So his best solution is to hit content makers on TikTok and to try to get us banned for speech. This is, I hope, for everybody on both sides of the political aisle, an understanding for you of why speech is so important, because they can get you fired up and they can get you to hate one person, whether that's Trump, whether that's Biden, whether that's Kamala. But at the very moment that anybody who's purporting to be on the left or the right, Joel Berry, the Babylon Bee, we're conservatives. No, you're not, okay? You guys are calling for speech laws right now. You're pretending that Satan is involved. If people freely speak about the corruption of our governments, if people like me and Theo Von sit down and speak about the corruption that we see overseas, you're panicking, you're freaking out. These people are the greatest threat to our freedoms, because it means that they believe that we should only trust the experts. And what happens when we learn that the experts are corrupt? What happens when we learn that the experts are perverts? What happens when we learn that the experts are actually corrupted and taking money and doing deals to enslave the rest of us, to enslave the rest of humanity, globalist deals? For those of you who watch the Becoming Brigitte series, it's terrifying how power can exist at the very top and they can go after journalists. We can't have that happen in America. So a threat to the speech of Ian Carroll, Joe Rogan, Theo Von, Candace, give me a person on the left who's being taken down for saying something, even if I don't like them. It truly is, in my view, a threat to our democracy. And that is why they are scrambling so much with podcasting. They don't understand this independent media venture. They hate it. They are trying to smear it. They're trying to say it's wrong. They're trying to call everybody conspiracy theorists, Satan, whatever it is. And I want to draw your attention to that, because what Emmanuel Macron is doing is, it's just, there's no other way to describe it other than psychopathic. And there's more that I haven't even told you guys. And I'm telling you, it's getting me to the point that I want to do a second series on Emmanuel Macron, because I will not tolerate this. I think it's completely ridiculous. Anyways, you guys, before I get to some of your comments, I want to remind you about American financing. I know the average person today is feeling the financial strain more than ever because expenses are up, wages are not keeping pace, and many people are finding it nearly impossible to make ends meet. With little left over after covering the basics, it's no surprise that many are resorting to credit cards just to get by, often carrying high balances and interest rates in the 20s or even 30s. If you're a homeowner and you're stuck in the cycle of mounting debt, you should call my friends at American Financing, because their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving homeowners an average of $800 a month, which can help you put your hard-earned money back where it belongs. Plus, if you act right now, you might be even able to skip your next mortgage payment. There are no upfront fees, so it costs you nothing to find out how much you could be saving each month. It's time to break free from the stress of debt, so talk to American Financing today and take control of your financial future. You can just call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, let's see what you guys are thinking in the chat today about all of this. Oh, I also did Stephen A. Smith That was another one that was great because he was on the left and he kind of had to do this monologue. I think he was kind of fearful that he would get a lot of backlash for having me on. And it was actually, I checked the comments, it was the opposite. People were kind of refreshed by it. So things are cracking in the right direction. But if you want to check out the Stephen A. Smith podcast, you can also find that available on YouTube and I think on Spotify or wherever it is that you listen. Comments. Number 1 from John. John writes, Candace for the first Black female president. A shout to our girl Kamala. She paved the way for us colored folks. Thank you very much, John. Emily writes, happy to see it. It seems like you like JD Vance now. Am I right? Love you, Candace. I haven't met him. So I'm a person, I'm telling you, I go on vibes and I meet someone, I get an instant gut mommy feeling, like it's like a superpower that women have. And I haven't met him yet. There are things that he has done that I think have been great and funny, but I'm just cautious about everyone because I'm cautious about the government. I'm cautious about what happens when people go to DC and get power in general. And I haven't done a deep dive on him. I have not yet done a timeline about JD Vance. That's what I haven't done yet. I need to do my psychotic timeline. Mishi writes, part of me doesn't want Justin to settle. He deserves to be exonerated. Yeah, I know. I think about that often. Like, should he settle if there is an opportunity? Well, he can be exonerated via a settlement. Right. So you're just saving the court time, saving your court costs. And you could say the only way that we're going to settle this lawsuit, which we think we're going to win, is you make a full mea culpa. You make a video and you say that you lie and you can't stop lying. And this has nothing to do with me being toxically positive. It has to do with you guys flying too close to the sun and thinking that you were untouchable. And what you did was demented and what you did was wrong. And if you say that to the public, then I'll walk away. And at that moment, it will be their ego on the line and they could potentially have to do both by the end of it. I mean, you lose a lawsuit, people then know that you lied, and on top of that, you got to pay $400 million. I mean, it gets interesting, but I do agree that he should not settle until he gets that full mea culpa. It's Archie writes, please don't stop doing interviews with these independent podcasts. It's super dope seeing you in your element in someone else's space and showing people who you are rather than who the media says you are. I have some more that are upcoming. Don't worry, you guys. I tend not to travel a lot now because I just have so many kids and it's just not worth being on the road. So Theo, I found out, was like my next door neighbor. Terrible neighbor. He never offered me a cup of anything, sugar, nothing. I had no idea. I was like, wow, you live right here? This is crazy. I could play pranks on Theo if I want, just so you guys know. Maybe I will. Maybe I will do that. April is just around the corner, a couple of weeks away, and maybe I'll just play a crazy trick and put Pikachu on his front yard. Nasty Pikachu just on his front yard. I think I might do that. Theorist writes, I am crying about your daughter's cute little lies. Love you, Candace. I'm like, what is this phase? You can't tell 2-year-olds that your dad's in prison. You can't. There are rules, and you can't reprimand these kids because it's so funny. Like when she just tells like a little lie, like she's like a pretty little liar, and she just says stuff, and I'm like, that's just not true. It's not true at all. And she tells me that she forgot her makeup. I'm like, you don't have makeup. We're not turning the car around. You don't have makeup. We're just going to the farmer's market, girl. Anyways, allegedly writes, Stephen Smith's closing monologue yesterday was fire. Don't even think about challenging her. You better know what the hell you are talking about when you come at her. She isn't going anywhere. I really appreciated that. As you guys learned in our sit down, I've actually always been a fan of Stephen A. Smith. Used to have to watch First Take every morning back when I was just a young buck in my early 20s. And yeah, it was great. Him and Skip Bayless. And I think we actually have a quote. My producer is writing that we actually have a 45-second clip from his monologue, so we can watch that now.
She's sharp as a tack. And you damn well better be if you gonna come for her. Because ladies and gentlemen, like it or not, Candace Owens, she's not going anywhere. Even when you thought she was gone, she's around. Number 8 on Spotify's list of podcasts and climbing. And she's in her 30s. She's not going away. No matter what some of you want, she's not going away. Deal with that. If not, I get the impression she will make you.
Do you know what that was? That felt like toxic positivity. let me go back to my definition, because that sounded like he was toxically positive about me. Oh, okay. A practice of forcing an optimistic, even when you're expecting negative emotions. Yes, that was that. I will be filing a lawsuit against Stephen A. Smith for toxic positivity. I'm going to have the Hollywood Reporter write that up. Anyways, I really appreciate that, Stephen A. Smith. I missed that ending there. So thank you very much for saying that. And it does feel like we've won in many ways against the mainstream media narrative about me. I'm definitely not going away. And because I love what I do. I love speaking with you guys every day. I love hearing what your ideas are. I like seeing what you're interested in. I like learning from you. I love being wrong also, and like editing something and coming back to you. It just feels like we're in a toxically positive relationship. Me and my podcast listeners. And so on that note, you guys, we will see you tomorrow. We'll jump right back into the Harvey series, this time taking a look at Jessica Mann, who put him in for 3 years in New York. Now that you guys if you're not caught up on that, go. It is amazing to understand exactly what Judge Lehman is kind of alleging here or implying here, which is like there is faith that is being lost in the court systems when people are being treated differently. And unfortunately for people who are disgusted with Harvey Weinstein, he was somebody who was definitively treated differently in court because of clearly someone that was much more powerful than him behind the scenes, I think, that may have been orchestrating everything, and a terribly corrupt judge is what I would say. Anyways, you guys, we will see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, if you'd like to, head to CandaceOwens.com. You can buy our book, support our independence so that we don't have to rely on YouTube when we get demonetized. We are not demonetized right now, but we were for a very long time. Love you mucho. We will see you then.